Hey there everyone, this is Coding Cleverly. Today's video is about recursion. It is a tricky concept to understand and wrap your head around, but I will take it really simple and go straight to the point to it. So what recursion is basically a methodology in which you are calling the function inside the function. So you're repeatedly calling the function over and over again until the computer explodes or the world ends. But you want to control this, and you might be asking me, then how do you control this concept? So you do is basically have a base case inside of the function, and when the matching condition is satisfied, the function breaks out. So it won't go implementing an infinite loop. So before starting this video off, I want you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and really it truly motivates me to provide more and more content for you guys. So I really appreciate it if you take the moment to subscribe to this channel. Okay, so if you guys are subscribed, let's go ahead, and if you aren't, then please consider subscribing. And now let's go ahead to the video and start. So first of all, I'm gonna go in my famous IDE. So I'm going to be using VS Code for now on. I might be making a video on how you could set up your C++ environment onto it. If you guys want that video, let me know in the comment sections. So now what I'm going to do is basically, I'm going to include my handy header file, IOStream. Okay, so I'm going to have using namespace standard for this particular case, and then we have an integer main. And we also have the return 0 semicolon. Save this. Now I have this what you could call the boilerplate code. So inside of this, I would say before the main function, the driven logic, what I would do is create a function. So the function is going to be a simple function, and it's going to be non-recursive. I'm going to go over a simple and then a recursive function for the same kind of process, and we're going to go compare it side by side. So it's going to be called the countdown, as you can see the file name. So it's going to have a return type of void, and what's going to be is that it's going to have the name countdown, and it's going to take an input number, let's say num. And now what's going to happen is that it's going to go through a for loop. So I would say for loop integer I is equal to 0. Okay, now it's going to be number. So it's going to go from 10, 9, 8, 7, as you know how countdowns work. And what's going to be the condition is that I is greater than 0. And then it's going to say I plus plus. I mean, sorry, not over here plus plus, because we want it going down. So if we want it going down, we have to have decrementation. So over here, we're going to show the number. So we'd say number. But we don't want the number because number is constant. The thing that's changing is I, so we want the I. End line, and then over here at the end we'll have it blast off. Just having a prompt, you could say hooray or something, and I would say blast off just like a rocket ship. So when it's done, I would save it, and now let me invoke it. So how do I invoke it? Is basically to call the name. So countdown and put a number. So I would say countdown and put a number inside. Let's say 10. Now save this code. I'm going to right click, and you could see run code over here. Now you can see over here, look how awesome this worked. So we have this code, and it says 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once it's reached 1, it says blast off. Awesome. So this was my simple code. And now let's create a recursive function, which is similar to this. So how we're going to do is basically, first we're going to have a void. So the return type. Now I have countdown. And I'm going to call this as countdown recursive. And we're going to have an input parameter, which is the same as number. Now remember here in recursion is that they don't have iterations. So you don't have for loops or you have while loops. You don't have any of that. You would have to manipulate it through just recursive calls. And there's going to be a recursive stack that's going to be going on behind the scenes, and I'm going to show you a visual implementation through that. But first of all, let's just write the code. So what I'm going to do is basically have a base case. Now what I was talking about was a base case. So the guard clause is also known as a base case. So what it's going to be is I'm going to say if the number, all right, if it's less than, let's say 1, all right, if the number is less than 1. So it's just going to keep on doing this, and I'm going to make this decremented instead of having I minus minus created inside a for loop. I'm not using these, so I'm going to have to use this number, and I'm going to have to decrement it and show the number results on the screen. So I'm going to say if this happens, like if the number is less than 1, what's going to happen? We'll say print out blast off. So let's print out blast off. All right, and then we could just return. So we'd say return And that's basically it for this particular case. It's just going to break it out. Okay, if this doesn't work, then what we could do is we could say else, and then this is just explicitly telling you, you don't necessarily have to include the else statement, but we could say that we just want the result of the number. So we'd say we want number, and then we want to call. Now this is the most important part of the recursion. So we're just going to call this function again, but now remember, now we're going to have to decrement it one time. Instead of having it explicitly defined here in my decrementation place, I would have to now call it in my invocation. So in my arguments, I have it going -1. So every time I do that, it's going to give that. So let's see if this code actually works. So let me just going to call this. I'm going to say countdown. I'm going to say recursive, and I'm going to try with the same value, 10. I'm going to comment this one out so that this is not going to show, and this is going to work. So let's right click this, we'll run the code, and let's see, it's loading. Oh, there you go. So we have it 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have blast off. So exactly the same code, but actually the way we did it was different. So let me explain you how this goes about. Okay, so the first thing is, let's suppose that we have a number, let's go short and say 3. So we'd have a number, let's say countdown, and we'll say recursive, and we'll have the number, let's say 3. So once we have countdown recursive 3, it goes over here and checks it's less than 1. No, it's not. The number is greater than 1. So it skips this and it goes and prints the number, and then it recalls the function again. So it calls the function. So you have a countdown recursive again, and now it's going to call with 2 because it's decrementing. So it's going to call again. It's going to check if 2 is less than 1. No, it's not. So it's going to skip and it's going to print it out, and it's going to call the function again. So it's going to countdown. So it's a countdown recursive, and then it would have 1 inside. So it's going to be over here, and then it's going to say, it's going to go up here. It's going to say if is 1 less than 1. No, it's not. So it's going to skip again. It's going to go in the, it's going to print it out, and it's going to go and call countdown recursive for the last one, which is 0. Okay, now let's see. Now 0 is over here. It checks over here if 0 is less than 1. Yeah, it is. So what's going to happen? It's going to print out blast off. So it's going to print out blast off, and then what's going to happen is return. So over here in this 0 part, we have a return. So this is going to make it stop. So this part, this function is going to close, and from that ultimately you have recursive call 1. So with this countdown recursive 1 is going to be over here, this part in the last position from the hold function. So after this, we genuinely have a return. You just pretend that there's a return. So what a return does is just closes the function. So we'd have that closed as well. So the recursive call for that would be definitely return like that, and then we go back to recursive countdown recursive 2, and that's going to be return 2. So it's going to have return, and it's going to go all the way until we meet our last one. So that's the recursive call 3, and it's just going to return. So we're going to have it like similar to this. We're going to have, this is how our recursive stack would look like behind the scenes. So we'd have it go through this, and it's just going to return the value. And now let's save this code, and let's look at the output one more time and examine how it worked. So we have, oh yeah, so I just had to comment this out. So this is just comments. So let me just control / this, save the code, run code one more time, and ignore all these errors. And come on, there you go. So we have this implementation through this. So I hope you understood the concept of recursion through this basic example. If you guys want more videos on recursive functions and recursive calls, then do let me know in the comment sections. I will be making more extensive videos about this topic if you guys really want them. All right, so see you around. See you next time. Peace out.